Welcome to In This Body, the online event to support parents, caregivers, and family members with staying regulated, embodied, and connected, even when things get intense. Today, I have a wonderful speaker with me here, Nidra. Nid is a guide in deep rest and embodied well-being. She supports people to reconnect with their natural rhythm through yoga nidra and powerfully gentle practices that restore nourishment from within. With over 20 years of teaching experience across movement, meditation, and somatic awareness, she offers a grounded approach to sustainable energy in everyday life. Her work supports clarity, emotional balance, and healthier relationships for both adults and teens, helping families navigate a fast paced world with more ease and presence. Hi, Nid. I'm so honored to have you here today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Real honor to join you and everyone else who's watching. Thank you for taking this
Mm,
time.
yes. So tell us more about who you are and what you do.
I call myself a soul guide, which is, really guiding people from within to hear themselves more authentically and be able to find a way to navigate life from that authenticity, and acknowledge it and see it in other people around us so we can be more accepting and allowing of what is, as opposed to often that desire to try and change other people and ourselves. That obviously stems from my own journey. As I originally began working in this movement, I actually started 25 years ago, working with disabled children and special needs, in particular autistic children, with movement. And so that was where I began. And I loved working with teenagers in particular, and young, kind of 7 to 16 was definitely my age range. And it was great fun. Really, really loved it. Through my own life challenges, I took a diversion and took a little break as a lawyer. And in that little break, discovered my own problems. Many, many things unraveled in my life. And following a injury, I that was the end of that law career, and I returned to what I'd always known I would return to, and I'd always planned to return back to movement, and more subtle senses, especially in a deeper understanding of the brain as a result of my injury, and my own rehabilitation processes. And a huge part of that was relearning how to reweave my brain and retrain it, and the importance of different ways in which we can think, treat our body, and go about daily life, in order to, reintegrate myself into the world. And then from that, working with my own clients who don't have brain injuries, but have found that they have health issues, have relationship issues, where energy is not sustainable, where they have inconsistent cycles or strange experiences in life and don't know what to do with them and don't have anyone to talk to. So, a real range of struggles that people find themselves in. And the reality is it's always still the same approach that can help us to come back to what is it that's trying to express itself through us, that those struggles are really a mirror of what it is that we want to stop and hear within. And it's when we can be quiet and take that rest within our body that we can start to hear and be guided by that authentic voice that comes from within us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Such an important work you do. And you touched about how, okay, different problems, they can be unrelated, but in the end, they have that same purpose of reminding us
Mm,
to slow down and rest. You mentioned rest. Wow,
yes.
what an important word. Mm.
And so, I can really recognize, and I really know when people are in that place where it's really hard to make that choice. And I no, my diversion as a lawyer was there for that reason. I've been in that place where I barely slept 4 hours a night, and I was fried in many ways in all directions in my life, and could see all these things unraveling, but couldn't work out what to do with them, and didn't feel like I had time to get good rest. And when I had my brain injury, I couldn't sleep for more than 40 minutes at a time. And so, I was exhausted again. And so it's seeing, okay, hang on a minute, if I can't get sleep, that people always tell us, you need sleep to feel rested. And that's the piece that actually, when I stopped thinking I needed peace to get rest, I started feeling more rested, because I could allow rest to come to me in the way I am as a being, and realize that it's a state in which I am naturally when I am feeling open, when I allow myself to feel easy, and then I can feel safe. And that's what rest really is. It's just a state that we can feel into. It's not necessarily, I need to sleep to feel that. Sleep is a part of the replenishment cycle. So what we want to understand is that, the brain needs rest in a form of down regulation. It needs quiet. Now, it does need sleep, and it's true that at sleep, there's certain clearing that happens in our sleep. But if we can't even rest in our day, we won't be able to settle to sleep at night. And so it's understanding how to start to feel more rested in our waking day that is going to help us to sleep better at night, to therefore wake up feeling more rejuvenated. So it's about a conscious entry into finding a state of restfulness in our waking state, that then in our unconscious state, we can access that sleep and get that deeper rest. So it's an important piece to recognize that these cycles happen throughout our day. We're moving constantly between being active and needing to do, driving, needing to be alert and be, focused on making sure we're doing all the right things for safety. And then we have moments where we can down regulate in our day and find some rest. And down regulation is that moment to sit and find a minute of stillness. And maybe it's not even a minute of stillness. It might even be 30 seconds. And to acknowledge that as we're moving through those cycles, it affects how awake or asleep we feel. Am I feeling alert enough to concentrate? No, I'm feeling tired. Okay, that's because it's a natural time to do something a little bit more restful. And there are constructive things we can do that can be more restful in our day. We don't have to be, obviously, when you're at work, you might have to be in a meeting where you have to be answering things and talking in a certain way, and therefore you need to be active. And we can shift that state. So we can shift our natural rhythm, but to know and identify that rhythm. And if you've got the choice to take a moment and say, hang on, I can shift my focus. And understanding these rhythms is helpful. And to be honest, it's not something a scientist or someone like me can necessarily tell you either. You have your own inner rhythm that your body works best with, morning person or a night person, right? That's a simple thing to understand, right? You're slow in the morning. Okay, that means that you need a bit more time in the morning to get yourself energized for your day. That means that when someone else says, oh, I just go for a run, that's probably not going to work for you if you're slow in the morning. You probably should go for a gentle walk, right? And be gentle with yourself. Bring yourself into the day with kindness in that rhythm, rather than jarring against the rhythm of someone else who's a morning person who can get up and run, right? And so we want to really acknowledge our own rhythm, and that when we need to down regulate, when we're in that, like, I'm a bit more tired, I'm not feeling quite so focused about doing things, use that as that opportunity to come into this state of rest consciously. And I'm going to walk us through the stages of how the body naturally comes into restfulness. And then we can talk a bit more about ideas of where we can place our attention when we are down regulating and in that slower rhythm, so that we can take those opportunities of rest. But one of the key things is that there is a natural process the body goes through to go to sleep. It's taught in the ancient traditions of Tibetan sleep yoga, yoga nidra. The Toltecs taught it from Mexico for sleep work, and it's part of lucid dreaming work. And this process is what the body naturally does when it goes to sleep. And so, if you don't mind, I'd like to take us through that process now. And it's something you can do with your eyes open. You can do it with your eyes closed. You can be seated. You can be standing. Okay. So it doesn't mean that we have to be in a nice meditative or lying down state to go to sleep. But if you can, just try and soften your eye gaze and look down a little bit. That can be helpful just to bring the awareness in, or just at least soften the muscles around the eyes if they don't feel like they want to close. And it can be nice to let your hands rest either holding one another or on your lap. And just notice which direction you let your hands rest in. And as the body just takes a moment to settle, just noticing the hands and the body just coming into this moment, the physical sensations that are here. And whatever the hands touch on the body is the connection to your heart expressing itself. So feeling the love that pours from your heart through your hands to wherever they touch on your body. And letting the hands feed back to the heart, that sense of touch. This body that you get to touch, these hands that feel love. And you notice that your breath around that heart space may be naturally moving in its own rhythm. And let the breath soften. Allow the breath to gently ease in the body. The breath naturally slows and settles with a little awareness. And you might notice the body temperature slightly adjusting, whether it becomes a little cooler or a little warmer as energy shifts in the body. And the body finds a good temperature. And letting the body adjust as that temperature slightly changes. And there may be any other sensations that are present. And just move and allow them to open. Allow them to help you find some ease in your physical body. And once you've found that open ease, you're safe to let your mind drift. Let it imagine and drift off into a place. Just feels really open, easeful. Maybe there's other feelings you'd like to feel that you would want to tap into with your imagination. And your imagination may be very fanciful or it may be very grounded. Just allow your imagination this opportunity this moment. And we'll begin to slowly bring ourselves back into our day in this place and time that you're in. Just whatever feels comfortable to bring yourself back in. You might move a little, you might stretch.
Mm. Mm. It's a peaceful state, a very peaceful state. Mm.
When we allow this restfulness to be a little bit more frequent in our day, and we learn to just let these little moments kind of be little spots throughout the day, you know, it becomes more of a natural state and it becomes an easier state to come back to. So even if you lose it and you get caught up in the excitement and the stress of what's in front of you, you know, there can be a moment where once that's passed, you can stop and use this to regroup, right? And then go, okay, hang on a minute, let me regather. And I can come back and say, I'm sorry, you know, I just behaved whatever I did, right? You know, okay, now let's look at this from a new place, right? And bring that calm to what has just been, you know, even if you can't bring it in the first instance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, you know, and this is important because there's many things in life where we can feel like we've lost it and we can sometimes, you know, say it's irreparable. We don't have time to then repair it, or we try to repair it from the same state,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and this is the same as Albert Einstein's quote that you can't fix a problem from the same place that you thought of it. Well, your physiology that is tense is trying to fix a problem from a tense state. It's not going to resolve it. So we want to be able to find this state to tap into so that we can, yes, get better sleep, but also hopefully have a more rested approach to solving things that may have gone wrong in our day, to approaching situations in our family dynamic that can be with this level of presence so that people, you know, we feel the presence, then we don't feel that we're being controlled and constricted. And then we can open to be more trusting that we're being supported by one another and that the support and that the trust can be worked through, right? That if it's fine
Yes.
if you lose it, you know, but I can trust you to go away, get calm, and then come back and we can have a conversation that's supportive to work through in presence. And that's the shift, you know, that we want to be able to repeat as a pattern that can change our relationships.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You touched on so many things, and like I want to reiterate that that presence and holding space for uh, the relationship dynamic and not coming from the triggered place. So even if we are angry or whatever, upset, but having that strength, I think it is a strength. It's such a powerful um, ability for us to just meet with our triggers with that kind of presence and peace.
It is, yeah. And I always say that, you know, triggers are a gift, right? When I get triggered, I'm like, yes, you know, thank you. You know, I've just seen something that is there for me to meet and
Mhm.
for me to deepen awareness and understanding of and compassion. And so it's okay to be triggered, you know, and in a way, it's helpful because it helps us unravel these pockets of tension that are stopping you from sleeping, that are stopping us from accessing true rest. You know,
Mm.
that's what they are, is they're like, you know, in your body, say where you have muscle tension, you know, it's like the fascia is stuck and the muscle can't work properly because I have a trigger. And if I work with that trigger, with that presence, it softens where the tissue is tight, and then my posture can open, right? So the feedback loop of that tension, of those triggers, is in your body. And that's why it's important that we want to hold the presence as we move through resolving that tension that's within.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So how do we I can see the like the immense value of taking those times in the day to return to this state of rest. What tips do you have for us to do that?
Yeah, thank you. So the most important thing is trying to make it as natural as possible. So obviously, you know, in terms of rest, it's really important to train ourselves at bedtime. And it is a training. And therefore, you know, and I'm sure as parents, you know, there's the training of babies, trying to get them to sleep at night and trying to fix a routine. So there's definitely your own routine, as much as obviously trying to help support children and especially teenagers to have that. Now, their cycle, when we talked about rhythm earlier on, they are on a different rhythm to a parent, and it's a natural rhythm that they stay up later, that they sleep later. And unfortunately, they have to be fitted into a timescale often of schooling that doesn't actually fit their natural rhythms. And so we can do our best to support what are steps for a natural rhythm at bedtime. So obviously bedtime, really important, lowering lights, lowering sound, right? Reducing sensitive stimulation so that our sensitive organs, our hands, our eyes, our ears, everything can start to calm and release some of that tension. So really important in terms of physical environment to reduce things that stimulate you and try and calm you down. Notice activities that stimulate you. So for some people, an activity that stimulates them might be shopping. Someone else might find that late night shopping is calming. Okay. So, you know, whatever the activities are, try and find things that calm you down and soothe you as you unwind for bed, and try and stick with the same routine so that you can have set cues that train your body that it's bedtime. So that's one. When you go to bed, go through those steps. So the steps are awareness of the body on its support. We used our hands when we were doing that as a way of connecting into that, so that whatever you're doing, you can feel something. When you're lying on your back, you feel your body on the bed. You then let your breath just soften. It becomes light when we breathe. It's not big, deep, full breaths, but you might need to take some big, full breaths to let your breath soften and release. Your body naturally gets cold. So imagining your body getting cooler as it starts to get ready for bed, starts to go to sleep. And if it feels warm, it's releasing energy from the day. So if you feel that warmth, you just imagine, oh, look, all of my day is evaporating off of me. The heat is going. You then go into, and that's what we would call opposite sensations. So we can use that in pendulation when we're looking from a somatic perspective and nervous system regulation. That hot, cold feeling can be helping you start to let your nervous system regulate. So if you're feeling stressed, imagining yourself hot and then imagining yourself cold, it's just a really nice way to let your body, let the nervous system start to come into a bit more coherence. And you're naturally doing that as you go to sleep. And then what we did was we dropped into imagining, letting yourself drift, which is what REM sleep is. And that's going to help you just let your mind go from the day. And if you need a bit of something as you're falling asleep that's not going to annoy you, think of, you know, anything that makes you happy, anything that cheers you up, anything that makes you laugh, or you can work through your day back to front. So when you work it through backwards, it's amazing how hard it is to remember your day when you do it in reverse. And that can take away a lot of the emotion that we have about our day so that you can fall asleep. So like that's falling asleep. So those are times that hopefully you can naturally do in your day, is a little bit of preparation to go to bed. My bedtime preparation is 1 cup of tea. It's a very specific cup of tea that I've trained my body. Once I drink that tea, it's like, I know it's time to go to sleep. I don't drink it the rest of the day because otherwise I would think I've got to go to bed. So you can make it that simple. Okay. Doesn't need to be a big drawn out thing. And that process for falling asleep is the stages of rest. So that's what we want to do at night to support ourselves. And you can teach that to your kids to help them with falling asleep too. If you notice your body is really agitated, your physical body can't go to sleep when you're doing that, especially if you try and do the hot and cold, the body isn't settling, get out of bed, stretch, move, let your body just do whatever it needs to do and release some of the tension that's in the body that might be holding you back from being able to fall asleep. Okay. But we want to train this conscious walking through sleep to help you with walking into better sleep. And that's a really nice, it's a little concise time of day that you can be practicing coming into this state. Other times a day, we want to do it in our transitions. So if you can, doing it when you get home from work, when the kids get home from school, just walking them yourself, walking them, walking through even just a body scan. Doesn't have to be all of those steps, right? You can take any of those steps and work with each of them on their own. So you could stop and do a body scan. Someone else might say, I'm going to stop and focus on the breath and just letting my breath sigh and ease and soften. Release the tension, breathing up here. Maybe I'll put my hand on my belly and do a couple of breaths on my belly to come home. It can be really nice, to doodle, especially for teenagers. Drawing is a really good way to help them down-regulate and have a transition where they might be like, yeah, I don't want to do all your meditation stuff, but I'm happy to draw, right? So allowing creativity to be expressed is really important. So for a teenager, it might be encouraging them to do something creative. And that's a natural way that they can start to relax. So we want to use these moments between activities in the day, coming between, even if it's just for 2 minutes or a minute in the car, right? You leave work, you sit in the car before you start the car. Actually, I'm just going to take 30 seconds and I'm going to feel my feet at the base of my car before I put them on the pedals. And I'm going to feel my hands on the steering wheel, and I'm just going to give myself a moment just to feel here and connected and let that happen. Or I close my eyes and I'm going to imagine something wonderful, whatever it is that cheers me up before I'm going to start driving, that's like completely disconnected from what I've just done, where I'm about to go. So we can take any of these in those transitions. One thing that often is hard is the emotional piece when we go between these transitions, right? Like, I just had a load of stress. Oh my God, rah, 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 everything's in my head. I'm really here, right? Like, how am I going to be able to do the next thing? I can't just sit still for 30 seconds. There's all this stuff going on around me. And this is where simple words and visualizations of energy can help us also. So even just, I say, I return to sender, return to the other person what is not mine. Whatever feelings I've just picked up, whatever their stress is, it's not mine. And as you imagine that going away, and you can imagine it however you like, a cloud going away, waterfall coming over you, imagine yourself in your own little bubble that's just full of whatever you'd like your bubble to be full of for a moment. That's a simple way. You can call all of your energy back as well. So if you've just felt like you've given loads of energy to other people and you're like, all I've done all day is give, and I'm exhausted of giving, say, I'm going to call all of my giving back to me and I'm going to give back to me. All my energy come back to me now. And I'm willing to meet whatever there is, even if my energy is frazzled, I'm willing to meet frazzled feelings and welcome it back. So really important is the emotional piece of recognizing not all of this is mine. And also, I may have left parts of myself elsewhere. And honor what you're feeling. Don't try and ignore it. But if you're in a situation where you can't honor your feelings and you can't sit there and go, I'm feeling this, and you really do need to suppress something, your emotions become overwhelming, right? We feel overwhelmed and we go towards burnout because we let those emotions pile up. If you can, in that bedtime period, you can use the emotions in that hot cold to be like, okay, I feel this emotion. I'm going to feel it for a minute. And then I'm going to feel another emotion that counters that emotion for a minute. And just let yourself feel the emotion. And again, going between that pendulation for your nervous system to feel the emotion, but also to know that there is a balance in what it feels. So we can bring that emotional awareness in that pendulation of I feel it, I'm present with it, I'm not trying to change it. And there is an opposite to it. And that's the gift of feeling emotions. The more emotions we feel, the more emotions we can feel of other forms too. And so allowing yourself to feel those moments of stress is going to open up those other feelings that you can have that are of more joy, of more peace, of more calm. And so we want to give a little bit of time to feel them. And if you can't do that in front of your kids, if you can't do that in front of people, then doing that on your own at bedtime or in those transition moments in your car for a minute, sitting on the sofa for a minute, you know, wherever it is, going to a bathroom break in a public toilet for 2 minutes, if that's what you need, like wherever it is that you can find that moment to reclaim for your own, and choosing any of those, right, those areas, whether it's your body sensing, the breath, pendulation of emotion and physical feeling, or a bit of imagining. And, you know, allow your intuition to tell you which one to do in that moment, right? You know, and if one doesn't work, that's okay. Maybe it was a different one. That's okay, right? That's you discovering yourself. And that's a gift in discovering yourself. And the other opportunity and time to practice these things is in the surprise moments, the ones that you probably don't like, getting stuck at lights, being, you know, crawling in traffic, something being cancelled, and now you have to stand and wait on a platform for ages, right? All of those are moments where we can stop and we can go, hang on a minute, I can drop into one of those feelings. I can drop into that opportunity to, I don't know, you're standing on a subway platform and you see an advert, you know, and it's for a holiday. Okay, cool. I'm going to stand here and I'm going to look at that picture and I'm going to imagine my favorite holiday where I'd like to go. Let your imagination drift. So it can be there at any moment. We just want to use any of those tools to remind us, okay, hang on, I can do this right now. I can look out the window of my car and I can see the light, the way it's in the grey clouds. And I can think about, you know, shades of grey. You know, where does that take my mind, right? Or where does that take me in my body? How does that feel? What does grey feel like in my body? You know, what are the feelings, the emotions, the stories I tell with the color grey? So just opening the mind in these moments releases the contraction of, I'm going to be late. There's a million things. How am I going to now do this? If you just go, hang on a minute, this is that moment. I've been given a pause, been given that stop sign to go stop, pause, and open. You know, and sometimes the other thing is just to say, I don't know how to open. I don't know how to feel rested. Help me. And give it up. Surrender having any idea or knowing what it is to do. And sometimes something else inside of you can shift.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's powerful. It's like putting your intention on something and just allowing the universe to get the solution. Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes, you know, you can be busy going, oh, there's all those embodiment practices. Oh, I can't remember. Am I doing it right? You know, and instead of getting caught into that, it's, I just don't know. help, help me. I know I want to feel calm. I know I want to feel rest.
Yeah, yeah.
Give it over. And that's one of the biggest pieces here is tension is I'm trying to hold on, I'm trying to control. I have to do it all. When I give it over, I can go, oh, it's not mine anymore. Right. And how often do you get to do that as a parent? Oh, it's not mine anymore.
Yes. Yeah. This has been wonderful. Anything else before we share your wonderful gift?
um, I was thinking before our call, there's a lovely little piece from Chinese medicine with the Chinese elements. They have phases of life with the different elements. And the teenager is the wood element of spring. And if we think of spring, it's plants, they're excited to grow, they're excited to come into the light. And we can see sometimes plants coming up through concrete, right? They're so determined, there's so much energy, and they'll redirect themselves in a million different ways. There's so much enthusiasm, and that energy is the teenager time of life. That's the time of life of the teenager. And so they have this wonderful, abundant energy. And they're there to test boundaries, to discover their own strength, to discover their sense of self, their own identity. And the parent stage of life is earth element. And we call that like the peacemaker time of life, to learn to find peace amongst the many different competing priorities and wants and people. And earth regulates wood in the control cycle in Chinese medicine. And that's like thinking about wood, would fall into the earth if it's unstable. And the earth creates the boundaries of stability. It helps that tree know where it can grow, gives it nourishment, and it gives it all that support. And the tree can trust that it knows that it's got that support, that nourishment. And if it falls, it's going to be caught. And I just felt that that's such a beautiful teaching that some people may tap into, and that can be something for the imagination. But just that energy of those elements and that dynamic is such a beautiful one for what that relationship is, and how it's playing out in nature as well as in our own human nature.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I know you have a very generous gift to our listeners today.
Thank you. Yeah. So I have a course called Living in Deep Rest, which is everything I've talked about today. And it takes you through, we've got 15-minute lessons for each of the body scans, for the breath awareness, for the pendulation, or we call it opposites in Yoga Nidra, and imagination and affirmations. And it takes you through explaining a little bit more in detail some of the science, some of the yoga background. And then there are a couple of different ways you can do these practices in under 5 minutes. So again, just giving you a few more tools to deepen into what we've gone through today. And there's also at least 15 long yoga nidra practices to listen to help you with falling into that state of sleep that really guide you through the journey. And that's available for free. And you can do it in your own time, each of those lessons as and when like the next one calls you. So that's what I'd love to invite your listeners to.
Wow, thank you so much. The link will be below the recording. That's really, really wonderful from you, Nid.
Thank you, Nadine.
Mm. And as we wrap up, one last thing you want to share,
Mm.
or leave our listeners with.
Um, it's really easy to get caught up in the state that you're in. I really sense the most powerful thing is just to be curious to what it might be to not be in the state that you're in. And whatever that curiosity takes you to, let that invite in that state of rest, and for you to feel more rested and therefore have more sustainable energy. But let your curiosity always guide you.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Nadine.
Thank you.